All right, thanks, Bonnie. And good afternoon, everyone. I am Kate Athmer, co-author of Millennial Reboot and also demand orchestrator at Integrate, which is a software company based out of Arizona. Thank you so much for being here this afternoon, and I really appreciate the chance to speak with you on the topic of millennials and marketing technologists. So, to make sure that we are all in the same place and everyone's on the same page, we're going to cover three things here. What are millennials? What are marketing technologists? And then also, why are millennials so uniquely suited for a role as a marketing technologist? So, starting with what is a marketing technologist? Any of you that had the opportunity to read my blog post prior to this event, you know that I'm talking about the fact that the rules of the game in marketing have changed. It's no longer an industry of madmen throwing out ideas, seeing what sticks, pitching to clients who are 4 cocktails deep by noon. It's a different world. Marketing can be measured much more effectively now. Digital marketing, it's actually scheduled to pass TV this year in terms of spend, is especially an area where marketing can be much more effectively measured now. So what this means is we, especially us in digital marketing, now have the opportunity to prove what's working. And the good thing about that is when you can prove what's working, you can earn yourself a seat at the strategy table. And our generation, millennials, have actually made a career out of marketing automation. We love it, and prior to it, we had a tough time often defending what marketing dollars were going to, and this has made it a lot easier. And when budget cuts loom and when they swoop in and say, oh, well, we need to cut costs and marketing is just a cost center, so we're looking to get rid of you, you now have a leg to stand on because you have the data to back it up. And it's going to keep evolving. Technology is growing faster and faster. There's more and more to manage. So it's really important that you're able to embrace the strategy side of it and the big picture marketing and use the data and the power you have within your technology stack to get yourself a seat at the strategy table and avoid becoming a marketing janitor. So how do you do this? Go beyond just efficiency and automation. That is what the foundation of marketing automation was, but now there has to be more. You have to think about the strategy. You have to think long term. You have to stop, pause, take the time to measure what's working and what's not, and be able to adjust course in real time, which the technology thankfully allows. Master marketing orchestration. Tech that integrates and solves a real problem is so critical. If your tech does not integrate, or if you just went out and purchased something because it was a shiny object, we call it shiny object syndrome, that had appeal for an immediate fix, an immediate pain point, but not a long-term scalable solution, then in a couple months you're going to find yourself in a little bit of trouble, having difficulty with a system that just gave you a lot more manual processes because it wouldn't integrate with your existing core technology. So be careful of that. Also, when we speak of marketing orchestration, think beyond the marketing team and start to think as a marketing technologist what you're doing, what you're working on, what value that can bring beyond the marketing team and into the rest of the company. How can you help other departments make better decisions with their data? The obvious next jump is obviously the sales team. You hopefully are already working closely and in alignment with them. But go beyond that and see where else you can help. Maybe finance can forecast better using your data. So start to think bigger picture like that. Also, it's still marketing. So unleash your creativity. Don't forget about how marketing started and that marketing is the story well told. Don't let go of that, because as you get into the weeds with automation and manipulating technology to have it do what you need and taking orders sometimes from other departments can get quickly overwhelming, and you need to make sure that you're carving out time and balancing that left brain, right brain aspect and still have time for the creative, big thought ideas. And finally, be human. Whether that's in external marketing communications out to your customers, they're humans, or if it's in internal conversations with your boss or your team trying to determine, trying to plan or determine your strategy for the upcoming quarter. Remember that everyone's human, and the more human you can communicate, I'm not saying forget your data, use the data to back things up, but remember that everyone's a human too, and talk to them like humans. Get out of your little marketing automation robot mode for a second, and bring that human element to the communication. So, who are millennials? Well, born between 1982 and 2000. Show of hands, proud hands up. 27% of the US population, half of the workforce. So chances are good that either you are one, you work with one, you might even work for one. So the good news here, millennials are uniquely equipped for marketing technologist roles. Why? We're kind of just wired that way. But millennials are tech savvy. I don't really have to go into detail on that. I think everyone probably agrees with me. We're the most tech savvy generation, technology native that there is. So this also means we like working in technology. And it's somewhere we feel like the playing field has been leveled a bit, because we have such a native understanding. We can get ourselves a seat in the meetings and get ourselves a role where we are responsible for educating other parts of the organization. So that's exciting. And an interesting stat I came across, 42% of millennials would consider quitting a job if the technology was below their level of what they deemed acceptable. So it's a big factor in organizations for millennials. This means that we won't tolerate bad processes and delays. We are really all about efficiency. And I think sometimes this gets labeled as needy or lazy or demanding, but we grew up with Facebook, we grew up with Amazon, so we've seen what's possible when it comes to technology, and therefore we aren't willing to settle for less. And this is a good thing for a company because it means we're going to help elevate the company and push the company forward in those areas. We are also naturally skeptical. We want proof for everything. And again, technology and the digital marketing metrics we now have access to give us the ability to prove things, get a seat at the table, and it also gives us a unique ability to adjust course in real time. So we can update things mid-campaign if we see that they aren't working, rather than having to wait a long time to measure results. So that is definitely a huge benefit not to be overlooked. And flexibility is more important to millennials than the corner office. And fortunately, this role is something that can be done not necessarily in a 9-to-5, I'm at the office every day sort of capacity. I myself am an example of this. My company is based in Arizona. I work remotely from my home office and hop on calls or hop on an airplane when we need to work in real time, face to face. But for the most part, the bulk of my job can be done remotely, which then gives me the flexibility to travel or go to the dentist appointment like I did this afternoon, instead of having to schedule that outside of the 9-to-5 expectation to be in the office. So, of course, there's a couple things that millennials suck at. We know this. And Doesn't matter who's to blame here, but I think everyone can do their part to help millennials fulfill their potential. And whether you're a manager offering some coaching and guidance, or whether you're a millennial yourself, taking the initiative to figure out what your weak points are and how you can improve them. So I have a couple suggestions of how millennials can make the most of their skills, starting with why it's really important to make this a thing. $30.5 billion is what millennial turnover costs the economy each year. Millennials are 64% less likely to switch jobs if they feel like they're engaged at work. Millennial managers, take note. And remember how I said they're nearly half the workforce. So it's really important that we are utilizing millennials. And so if that means having to give them a little extra boost, let's do it. So how can managers help millennials? Build an environment where failure is okay, as long as you fail fast and you learn from it. 72% of millennials think that their schooling didn't effectively prepare them for the workforce. Yikes. So by giving millennials a space where they feel like it's okay to fail and communicating that up front, I think that millennials will feel a lot more comfortable, a lot more willing to try their big ideas and bring forth their creative thoughts. And going along with that, don't dismiss the creative ideas as idealistic or pie in the sky kind of ideas. Encourage that, because that is how the company grows and moves forward. And allow millennials to make decisions in the area that they have been assigned, in their area of responsibility. Social media is a great example of this becoming a glaring issue in a lot of corporations. When back in the day, if you wanted to put out a tweet, it was like 3 or 4 days of approval to like, okay, yeah, it's cool, we can tweet this. Social media happens in real time. We all know that now. And so if you have a social media manager, you need to give them the reins, let them make their decisions, let them learn and grow and practice without having to run everything by you. And if you don't trust them, probably it might be time to invest in training them then. Not an excuse there. So also keep your jaded perspectives to yourself. Kind of goes without saying, but it's really easy to complain about things without thinking about the implications. And finally, stop referencing age. We don't mention your age, so we expect the reverse to be true. It's not a factor. How can millennials make a better impact? Guys, this is where we have to step it up. For real here. Adapt your communication style to who is in the room, who you're asking for something from, who you're speaking to, and consider their preferred method of communication too. So just like you might prefer that your mom text you or send you an email, your boss probably prefers that you stop by their office or hands them a Post-it note. Something that they can respond to and easily give you an answer on, give you feedback on, is going to benefit both of you by making that burden of communication lighter. So keep that in mind. Exercise empathy, similar concept here. Know that change is uncomfortable for a lot of people. So when you are pushing a new idea or a new initiative, come prepared with data, but also come prepared with how this is going to benefit them. Because that is the easiest and most frictionless way to get somebody on board with your idea, is to have them understand how they benefit from it. So try to keep that in mind when you're pursuing change. Consider the big picture as well for the whole company. Think longer term. Think beyond 6 months. Think a year, 18 months, 2 years. And also thinking that far in advance and being able to communicate that you're thinking that far probably might make your boss a little bit more comfortable that you're not planning on running out the door in 6 months. So really embrace the long-term thinking. Try not to get caught up in the weeds. Obviously, it's going to be part of your job requirements to get in the weeds, make sure things are working, but remember to step back. As I mentioned before, remember to look at the data, understand what's working, and then also think about those creative, big marketing ideas, big M ideas, long-term strategy. Here's a good one. This is probably one of my favorite ones. No pointing out problems without solutions. Great idea, great in concept. I understand that there's like occasional emergencies where you're like, oh gosh, I need help. Fine. But what this makes you do is step back and think, okay, if I don't have a solution for this problem, is it that important of a problem? And B, is it my problem to solve? If it is, come up with a solution. But it's going to keep you focused on the problems that you should be solving and that you are getting paid to solve, and less concerned about how crappy the coffee is, for example. So really, no pointing out problems without solutions is a pretty good rule to live by, and one that can immediately keep you focused. And make sure your boss knows what you're up to. A lot of people expect promotions or recognition for a job well done, but fail to consider that their boss is really busy and might not have an idea of everything you're doing. So I recommend taking it on yourself to schedule weekly or monthly check-ins, whatever cadence feels right for your organization, so that you can lay out and go to these prepared to lay out, here's what I did, here's what I accomplished, here's the roadblocks I'm hitting, and where I need your help. And having that regularly scheduled check-in will help keep everyone on track, but also keep everyone aware of what's going on and what your contributions are. But unless you're communicating your contributions, it's not really fair to expect that everyone knows what you're up to. So a takeaway from the last two slides, spending time and having a plan for communication and feedback will really go a long way to benefit both sides. And I'll leave you with this quote. Future generations, fortunately, aren't going to stop automating and optimizing. This is good for companies, good for organizations, but millennials and managers do need to work together to bridge the communication gap and use that to propel organizations forward. So I really look forward to hearing some of your ideas on how we can get better at this, or how you're already achieving this. So find me after this presentation and let's meet up and have a conversation. Thank you so much.